I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while. It's been a while, but fandom is in dire need of a lecture from the prof. So I'm back. Lecture, whatever. Some things to say tonight, and just some fascinating things going on. So some disturbing things, but stepping back and from a cultural analysis perspective, it's weird. But anyway, thanks for waiting and popping in. I really appreciate it. I didn't know. I thought that with having so many so it's a long a span of time without streaming or without posting videos, I thought, 5 or 10 people, maybe, but no, this is great. So welcome, folks. Just welcome some of you that I see there. I do believe that my dear Sound Engraver was first, so welcome to you, my dear. Miguel Espinoza, Grimdark Half Off, nice. Autobot Megatron, Health Runner, Nathaniel Lozball, Dr. Y, a lot of familiar faces. Sertorian Clegane, Horizon Talker. Horizon Talker has you comment here. You said, talking to Sound Engraver, or maybe just to anyone, you said, I'd ask if you were ready for some spicy takes by the prof, but the prof's opinions are going more and more mainstream. Now, I don't know what you mean, but do you mean that my opinions are like I'm taking on mainstream opinions, or that the mainstream is finally starting to agree with me? I don't know what you mean, but interesting. So yeah, welcome, Leia Plus Size, Alec Purdue, Private Eye, just a ton of people around. Good to see a lot of old names and faces. So yeah, great to see everyone. Hopefully Alyssa will let me stream. She is asleep in the other room, so planning to go for about an hour-ish. We'll see how it goes. I've got some things to talk about, and I'll check in a little bit with the chat and stuff. But I titled this video "The Consequences of Mishandling Archetypes" because that's what I'm really seeing today. I'm seeing it really, the incredible mishandling of archetypes that we've seen happen through Hollywood. We're seeing it, some of the consequences come to roost already, but we're also seeing this disturbing development or devolution of how fans react to it. It once upon a time, if Hollywood tried to deconstruct a hero or an archetype, it was viscerally reacted against by the fans. So, for example, Man of Steel, Superman. All right, when that Man of Steel film first came out, the Superman fans, the ones who had loved it, loved the character, for ages, loved the iconic Superman, immediately they were like, no, nope. And that whole period between Man of Steel right up through Justice League and everything, that fan base viscerally against it. Now you had a rise of the, what I call the Snyder Bros, but the fans of Snyder himself, fans who liked Snyder, they liked that take on the universes, on characters or whatever. And a few of them would claim to be, well, I've always been a Superman and I see nothing wrong with it. I highly doubt any of those people had truly always been Superman fans, at least in the way of which someone's interested in character and how they inspire them and are really a real part, doing the work of the mythology, inspiring you individually, societal wise, and so forth. So the fans had always kind of bristly initially reacted against it. Luke Skywalker is another great example in The Last Jedi. No, we're not doing this. How dare you do that to our beloved Luke Skywalker, the most aspirational hero out there, right up underneath Superman in terms of ubiquity, and just I mean, the guy who believed that Vader, his father, Vader of all people, the darkest villain of the Empire, right up next to the Emperor, could be saved, and his faith in his father won out in the end. I mean, that was huge. To turn around and have a story of him trying to murder his nephew because he was scared that he might go bad, and what did people say? What did fans of J.J. Abrams are just people who just wanted new content and wanted anybody critical to shut up? What did they say that day? They said, "Well, characters can't just stay like that always. I mean, he's got to evolve. He's grown older, and he's been traumatized by the things that have happened to him, and it makes sense. It makes sense that the older Luke would react this way." That's what they said. Remember that. Remember that defense. We're gonna come back to it. But of course, that defense betrays a complete and total lack of understanding when it comes to archetypes. The aspirational archetype doesn't just evolve away from being aspirational. Aspirationals are always aspirational. They were from the beginning, they are now, they're going to remain so until they die. That's how the archetype works. Sorry, I'm taking a little break from what I'm saying there because I do see Horizon Talker clarifying. This is what I thought you meant. So I mean, I'm starting to hear people know in real life now in real life say much the same things you are. When I hear things outside the internet, it's when I think they're getting cultural weight. That's heartening. It is heartening, especially recently with Book of Boba Fett. I think that series really took the shine off the Favreau Filoni lollipop for a lot of people and proved that they're not just an indestructible, they're always going to be amazing, kind of thing. But we'll talk about that. So, used to be that visceral reaction from the fans. Now what I'm seeing more and more is just this sort of, not from everyone, like Horizon Talker alluded to there. It is heartening to see a lot of people say, this is ridiculous. We're kind of done with this. But in general, with a lot of these franchises, some that I pictured on the thumbnail and others that I've got in reserve to talk about, are I'm seeing this just sort of fatigue for critical thinking, a fatigue for critical analysis, a fatigue in holding Hollywood and these storytellers to the standards that they should be held to, a fatigue in that. Now we're hearing this sentiment that, well, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, come on. Hey, at least that was one decently written movie, or at least it was one decently written episode, or at least it was, I'm just going to go enjoy that. I'm just going to go enjoy that. What do we have out there to choose from? I got to go enjoy something, right? I mean, what do you want me to do? Not go see movies? What do you want me to do? Not go watch something new that's fresh off the, yeah. Do you have any any lack of films to see from all the movies that have been made in the 20th century till now? Do you have any lack of television series, comic books, and so forth to read? No, you don't. So why do you need the new shiny thing? And the reason is what we'll come up to here in a moment. But we're seeing that kind of development in a lot of fans, and it's I'm going to talk about like Spider-Man: No Way Home. I'm going to talk about some that you don't even know that aren't even on the Witcher, for example, certain people like this. But we got to talk about the Book of Boba Fett first, because it is the most current thing, and I think it's the thing that most people here will probably be wanting to talk about. I can't be the only one who's noticed this, but I really have noticed this cult like loyalty and adherence to not just this show, but anything Favreau and Filoni do. They are our saviors. They are our messiahs. They can do no wrong. Even if you show them a video clip of Filoni giving that talk and talking about just towing the mainstream feminist line, oh, of course, Darth Vader was always scared of Princess Leia, da, 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 da. Even if you show them the quote where Favreau says, yes, The Mandalorian is filling the gap between Return of the Jedi and The New Order and the sequel trilogy. Oh, no, he had to say that. He had to say that because they got to play the game, but no, they're in it to save things for us. They're in it to what more do they need to do? Now with Book of Boba Fett, they're like straight up dumping on characters and deconstructing archetypes, and people are still, a lot of people, thankfully, have woken up to the fact that, oh my gosh, that's no, that's not how you handle Boba Fett. No, even if they don't have the mercenary, that's the archetype that he is. He doesn't just have some sad soul searching moments and kind of become a little bit more altruistic and change and evolve. And no, that's not what the archetype does. Now you do give them a certain different treatment when they're the main character of a story as opposed to a side character as he was, but that you can do that well within the limits and boundaries of the archetype. The EU was a great example with Tales from the Bounty Hunters and Bounty Hunter Wars. But what I'm hearing and what I heard immediately from episode 1 on was this defense for Favreau and Filoni's Boba Fett. It makes sense that, he would evolve and grow. I mean, he's been through some traumatic stuff. It's okay for him to grow and evolve. It's okay, for him to be a different person now. And that's the same ridiculous defense that the ideologues gave for what Last Jedi did to Luke Skywalker. And most of the people who are clinging to the Book of Boba Fett now were livid at that defense. They saw through that. They said, that's ridiculous. You can't do that to one character. You can't strip away the way he was established. But now it's okay. Now it's okay because they've decided that they need this new content. They need to like this. And there are some people, maybe 5 people out there, and they don't care. The world can be critical of it. They don't care. They're just going to have fun watching it. All right, there's some people out there like that. The vast majority, though, of Favreau Filoni followers are absolutely beside themselves that people are being critical of this series, are critical of Favreau and Filoni in general. They can't stand it. They can't stand seeing any dissenters in their online space in particular. They need to combat it, need to balance the scale. Now, hey, if take your own platform, do whatever you want on your own platform. You like it, you dislike it. That's what the internet's for. It's giving everybody a microphone, everybody a platform, But, I talked about this with the Snyder Bros. It's really telling when they go on to other people's platforms, other people's Twitters, other people's blogs, other people's YouTube channels, other people's platforms, and try their best to silence you or to combat you, to shut you up. That shows a desperation. I mean, even I honestly think if I could have a logical conversation with a Snyder supporter, someone who loves the Snyder DC movies, I think even they would admit this much if they weren't just so angry with me they had to disagree with everything I said. But when Man of Steel first came out and on through Batman v Superman, with the backlash that movie got, with the backlash Justice League got, obviously, the writing was really on the wall from the beginning that Warner Brothers was concerned. Warner Brothers knew, wait, something's not right. The future of the Snyderverse was on shaky ground from the beginning, ever since Man of Steel's release. And I think the fans of it knew that on some level, whether they'd admit it or not. And that's why they were so viscerally jumping in everybody's face who dared criticize this movie, because they on some level knew we had to shut up the dissent or else Warner Brothers might not continue making these. I think that same thing's going on now with the people who just have this cult-like devotion and must silence any dissent to Book of Boba Fett or to Favreau and Filoni. I mean, I made a funny Facebook post the other day. I truly think that Disney could do a new series in which they made Palpatine gay, and they established canonically that the Wookiees are an androgynous race of beings. They could do the most outrageous things like that as long as they trot out CGI Luke in one of the last episodes. The Favreau Filoni fans would go, "Oh, it's amazing! Oh, he held Grogu on his back. Everything's good in the world." And No, where did your discernment go? Where did the critical thinking go? And I'm hearing this from a lot of different people who defend and try to shout out any dissent. I'm hearing them say some variation of this. Look, there's so much darkness in the world right now. Let us enjoy something. There's so much darkness. Let us have this little shaft of light. Or they make it personal. I've been going through so much. I need this right now. I need this. You should see. I wish you could experience the euphoria of it. They use this kind of language. Or if you're not moved by this, what's wrong with you? This is like people talking about their religion or their gospel or something. This is not psychologically healthy. And I'm the guy who talks about, hey, these aren't just stories. They are very important because they have an effect on society and culture. But you cannot, it's terribly dangerous to trade any sort of putting off of satisfaction when it comes to good stories, to trade anything instant now, to trade, I want this shiny object now, even if it's not really good for the characters in the long run, even if it's not really good for the mythology in the long run. And then they start to tell themselves, well, I don't think it needs to be like that, really. I mean, I don't think that, archetypes are really like that. Suddenly they just start to change their tune. They change their tune all over the place. That's not that's not healthy. It's not good for the mythology, any of these individual franchises, but it's certainly not good for individual psychologies or our societies in the long run because they're going to lack the work that these mythologies do for us. And someone might say, "Well, you people critical of Boba Fett, you're just like a bunch of cults too." No, no, I don't care if people are squeeing about Boba Fett on Twitter or on YouTube. I don't go to people's channels and combat them. I don't blast Twitter and say, "Oh, yeah," I don't. That's that people are going to think what they think. Now, I'll go on my own channel and my own platform and I'll give my thoughts as I've always done about anything in the world I ever want to, because this is my platform, this is my space to do that. And people who are interested in hearing what I want to say, whether they end up agreeing with me or not, or whether they agree with me coming in or not, they can come, and people do come, and I think that's why people really get mad. Because think about that Snyder Bro type of mentality, or now I think the Favreau Filoni mentality. Because think, Favreau Filoni, they were indestructible. That you couldn't touch them when the Mandalorian came out. Fans insisted this was wonderful. Yes, they're the ones sticking it to Kathleen Kennedy. They know, blah blah blah, and then this whole silly narrative of the Civil War started to arise, and people were clinging to that. That's been blown apart in so many thousand different ways now, but people still cling to it, still cling to it. Um, but the Mandalorian was like, people just did not dare dissent on the Mandalorian, or gross looking pop vinyl Yoda. You can't do that ever. Don't say a word. But with Book of Boba Fett, and you even saw it with the animated series of Bad Batch. The writing was really questionable, and a lot of things were going on. People were starting to uh, to call out some things, but it wasn't a live action series. So Book of Boba Fett, that was really the follow up to Mandalorian in a lot of ways. And like I said, the shine has come off the Favreau Filoni verse, and I think the Favreau Filoni fans who are so desperate for that to continue and to receive more are are a little scared. They're a little nervous, and that's why they're trying desperate to shut people down. And you think about that. Well, what is it that you're really a fan of? Are you really truly a fan of Star Wars, of the universe that was established in this genre with these characters who were established in these archetypes? Are you really a fan of that? Or are you just a fan of something new coming off the line that has the current hashtags on it, where you can go online and there's an online little community of fans and you guys can watch it together and feel like you're watching it together and get the good fifis because there's so much darkness in the world, or there's dark stuff going on in your life? Now, mythology's there for that. That's what stories are for, man. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and watched the original 78 Superman, or the original 2012 Avengers, when things were dark, things just had a bad day or something like that. You need that pick me up. Hey, the stories are for that, absolutely. But this desperate need for the new shiny thing, the new thing off the line, that's what's crumbling mythology, because that's what's rewarding that kind of storytelling. I mean, the fans who are desperate to support Book of Boba Fett are telling Disney, deconstruct away, deconstruct away. It's okay. Just keep giving us that beautiful Favreau Filoni goodness. Uh, They're telling Disney to do that. They're telling Disney, no big deal if this leads into the sequel trilogy. It's all good. Just keep giving us this stuff. Keep giving us this stuff. And I guarantee you, there's probably people saying this right now. But if you haven't heard anybody say it yet, give it a few years. Eventually, you're going to hear people say, I think the Favreau Filoni verse, I think that makes the sequels make sense. That kind of redeems the sequels for me. It makes them make sense. That's absurd. That's absurd reasoning. That is not, no. How in the world can anything make sense of that travesty? Because those are unforgivable decisions to make for those archetypes. You just don't do it. There's no building up to it or explaining it or anything. No. But that's what they're going for. That's what they're going to say. Right now, I think most people are still, yeah, because Favreau Filoni, take that, Kathleen Kennedy. They still think that the two aren't one and the same here. But there's only so long that they can continue that lie, that flat out lie. And I think that lie is perpetrated for certain YouTube channels to continue to gain revenue because it's a sexy conspiracy, right? It's fun to galvanize fans and make them feel like, haha, you're winning, Kathleen Kennedy is laughing to the bank every single time one of those videos comes out. And the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, there are people who actually think the Obi-Wan Kenobi series might be good, guys. It might be Obi-Wan Kenobi. As I've said many times, they are going to have him on Tatooine doing his man penance, guilty and sad because of the atrocities that the Jedi, order let happen. And they're going to have him get schooled. They're going to have him need Ahsoka Tano and probably some other strong female characters to show up and smack him into shape and get him on the way here and everything. Guarantee you that's what it is. Now they'll pace themselves with that. One of the problems with the Book of Boba Fett series was the awful pacing. Like, if you could even get through episode 1, it was just ridiculous. Apparently this is so boring, to people. And people say, well, you got to take it. No, if it's a series and if it's going to release one episode at a time, then it has a responsibility to that medium to give it a general arc. You can't just slow down like that. So they'll pace that Kenobi series a little bit. They'll try to make people think that's not what they're doing. They'll give the fans enough little shiny bones to go, ooh, look at that. And then they'll blow it all out in the end, as they want to do. I got a super chat here before I get too far away from it. Let me find it again here. Shoot, where was it? I believe it was Alec Purdue. Yep. Sorry, I'm trying to bear with me. I'm trying to put it on the screen. There it is. Okay. I forgot the StreamYard does highlight it. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat, Alec. He says if they really wanted to be moved by entertainment, they would return to the stories that spoke to them in the past, not by modern slop. Exactly. What makes these great classic movies great, what makes the original trilogy great, is that it's not just something you see once. Okay, I've seen it. I've got the inspiration from that. No, great art, great stories can speak to you at different stages in your life. They can speak to you in different ways if you watch them again. That's what they do. They're there for that, to speak to you. And there's so much stuff like now there are some people I know who have read all of the EU, and I feel sorry for those people because they've got nothing new, but most of us have yet to encounter all the wonders of the EU. And even if you have read all the EU, by the time you finished, if you went back and started where you began from the first of all, it'd be so long since you read it, it'd be like reading it new, but let me cover some other ones of these. The other one, because I do have a point I want to make at the end, but I want to cover some other of these topics. The Spider-Man No Way Home, when that came out, and you heard people trying to defend it again. This is a great movie. Oh, it's just, it's just glad to have something this well written for once. We got, and then there became this narrative that started to grow up. Well, there are two factions, you see, because this movie was really more Sony than Disney anyway. Well, when has Sony ever been known for giving us, so I mean, they have flukes happen like Afterlife and stuff, but this narrative arose that there's a civil war in MCU too. There's the people going for the ideology, and then there's the people standing up and giving us stories we like the Spider-Man movie. And what's interesting about this is really what makes people think that No Way Home was some well-written movie, that was so great. You hear them talk about it, and all it boils down to is they brought Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Doc Ock, Green Goblin. They brought all these characters back. Why is it so hard for people to understand what that was? I called that ploy long before the movie ever came out. I said, guys, they're doing that to throw in these little teases for you. Hey, come back, support our movie, support our universe, and we'll give you these little flashbacks here. We'll give you these little characters as a multiverse. You're never going to see those characters again. Never. Never. There's no continuation of the Tobey Maguire verse or the Andrew Garfield verse. There's no continuation of that. They were trotted out to get people back on board for a Tom Holland Spider-Man. And what's interesting to me is that, yeah, because I mean that's the flat out point. All of your support for No Way Home is support for Tom Holland's Spider-Man continuation in the MCU. That's it. That's it. You can tell yourself all day long, morning till night, that, well, I'm just supporting it because I had to see Tobey Maguire again, or I'm just supporting it because I had to. Tell yourself whatever you want to. All of your support for No Way Home was going to Tom Holland's continuation as Spider-Man. And they knew that. That's why they threw those little flashes in there for you. Little teases, little shiny meaty bones for you to go gnaw on and shut up and stop criticizing them. Tom Holland's Spider-Man has become there's irrevocably the not Spider-Man. He is past the archetype. And what I think is funny is that they made a lot of changes to him in No Way Home, right? And I came out from the beginning, and I'd still say I love No Way Home. I mean, I'm sorry, not No Way Home, Homecoming, the first movie. Um, I liked Homecoming. Now I saw the changes that they made to his mythology and stuff like that, to certain little things. But I looked at that and I said, okay, none of these are archetype breakers. The archetype's still there. The core, the heart of the character's still there. The unities of the character, they're still there. Now, some people didn't like it because those changes were deal breakers for them. Totally get it. Totally get it. But the character was still there. The core of the character, the archetype was still there. They totally changed that with what's the second movie? I forget the name of it. But anyway, the second movie. They changed that with that. Once they made Michelle MJ, and once she starts telling him what to do and she starts being his moral guidance and all of this kind of stuff, they totally changed that. And they really cemented it in No Way Home. He did things in that movie that are completely beyond anything that Spider-Man should ever do, or anything that the trickster superhero archetype should ever do. He totally. Oh yeah, but it was cool because like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield, they were telling him not to do that, and who cares? They're not making another movie about Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield. They're making another movie about Tom Holland. That's the Spider-Man that you're supporting. That's the take on Spider-Man that you're supporting. And a lot of people who didn't like Homecoming because they didn't like the changes were suddenly somehow on board with No Way Home because it gave them their little teases of nostalgia, their little member berries. These characters came back or whatever, and now they're somehow they're on board with the Tom Holland Spider-Man, who's even worse and even farther from the archetype than he was in Homecoming. It's ridiculous. But again, it's just this phenomena of fans like slowly they're growing to fatigue of critical thinking, fatigue of being analytical about the stories and franchises. They're growing fatigued about standing up and saying, no, I'm not I'm not going to support that. They're just crumbling suddenly into, "Oh, I need something. Come on, we need something good. Come on, just let us do this. It's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad." When is not that bad been okay? That's not okay. Not for a franchise that you dearly love. It's not that bad is okay for like a new movie that comes out that you might just wanted to go and eat some popcorn through or something. Not that bad is not good enough for seminal characters of our culture like Superman, Captain America, Luke Skywalker, and so forth. It's not okay. That's not okay at all. Let me cover some other examples quickly. I put Captain America or Falcon Cap or whatever, Cap Falcon, on the thumbnail there. I've talked a lot about that, but it's just that was another example. And I still hear, I get students in my classes, will find out that I'm in a geeky, person or whatever. What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that? What'd you think of Endgame? I hated it. How could you hate Endgame when Cap holds the? Yeah, that's cool. It had amazing things in it like that, but none of that redeems the story because, and I go through and I say, and whenever I inevitably get to Captain America, I say it was really just straight up bad writing that you have him who's been his character development has been him trying to redeem Bucky. Falcon comes on board as a hero already. Falcon doesn't need redemption. Falcon steps into those wings and he is Falcon. And that's brilliant. He's a great character. And it was all pointing up for him passing the mantle if he ever should. Now, him just going back in time and choosing to stay there anyway, that you're being okay with a Captain America who says, "Screw you guys. I'm just going to get what I want. I'm taking what I want. I don't care." He turned his back on all of his friends. Well, he didn't turn his back because the world had been saved. That no, he's supposed to. He says, "I'll be back in a few minutes, guys." He's into time travel, and then he just, without saying goodbye or anything, he's gone. He's gone and decides, "I'm just going to do things for me now. For once, I'm going to do something for me." And you hear these ridiculous, "Well, he sacrificed so much. Doesn't he deserve?" No, he doesn't deserve to be selfish for a moment because he is an aspirational archetype, and they are always putting others first. Always. Not to mention the ridiculous story problems with the timeline and all of that kind of nonsense anyway. But then he comes back and gives the shield to Falcon just for agenda, just for social justice agenda. That's the only reason in the world you could possibly say is for that. Where's Bucky's redemption? Falcon's already a hero. Falcon doesn't need to be Captain America. Bucky's nothing. Bucky's Winter Soldier. That's a villain, you know. Now you could do an arc where he kind of redeems that title or something like that, but Bucky is the one who would have needed that role, as it was in the comics. As it was in the comics. It was absolutely just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. Not to mention all of the other deconstructions of the Hulk and Thor. Don't even get me started. The ridiculous nature of that film. But the whole Cap Falcon thing is absurd. And what did I hear? So many people are watching these shows too. They start out by like hate watching. "Oh, I'm going to watch it so I can see how bad it is. Then I can go on YouTube and I can find my favorite YouTubers and I can hear them say how bad it is. And ha, and I get that dopamine hit. And yeah, everything's horrible." And what did you do in that? You gave Disney Plus that view. And then the YouTuber who watched it so that they could say how bad it is gave it that view. And then they're talking about it online and they're giving it that publicity. You're supporting it. And then I think it goes from that sort of hate watching to, "Actually, guys, the last episode wasn't so bad. And and that's where people just devolve because again, it's not so important that they have a connection with the fandom. What they want is a community online. They want something shiny and new off the line, the current hashtags, and they want to uh, they want the community online with it. And how dare you if you try to take that away or if you try to dissent in any way? It's absurd. It's absurd. Couple other examples. Alec Purdue again for $5. Appreciate that, man. Let me put you up on the screen here. It says hate watching is the bane of our movement. It's why we can never win. Oh, well, I mean, there's no winning. I think we're not at the bottom of the barrel yet. And I think that mythology franchises need to utterly scrape the bottom of the barrel before people like the cult-like loyalists of Favreau and Filoni will ever realize, oh, maybe I should hold out or teach somebody a lesson, so forth. Some others. I got two more examples I'll talk about. All right, the Witcher. I haven't talked about the Witcher series ever since it came out and hit Netflix. A lot of people, this is sort of a niche one too. A lot of people just aren't big Witcher fans, unless some people might have played a game or something like that. I got into the franchise late, certainly, admittedly, but I did get into it and I got into it hard. Played through Witcher 2, played through Witcher 3, read all of the novels and the comics. Finally read the comics too. And Witcher's an interesting example. It's an interesting example because Sapkowski himself, the books themselves, those first two books, which are a collection of short stories, are amazing. They're so great. They really got that archetype of the wandering, kind of knight errant, but not really like chivalric knight errant, more like a Conan the Barbarian almost type of errant with a conscience, though, wanderer with a conscience kind of thing. Wonderful. But Sapkowski himself with the books starts to go more and more girl power. It starts to be more about Ciri and Geralt himself. In that last book, especially, Geralt's just like, "Well, okay, I'll go along." I mean, he's just like, he's such a little sap. I mean, it's kind of it's really it hurt uh reading that. Now, I'm sorry, not the last book. The last book of the mainline story, the last book of Siri and Yennefer and all of that. I think Sapkowski kind of realized that or got that feedback from people because he did do one final novel, which was supposed to take place back in the continuity before all of the end stuff happened. And that was great. That was the Witcher that we knew and loved again. And he even said something in the end, like, you might be thinking, well, this is the Witcher that did this, and that, but is he? Who knows? And it was almost like a, I don't know. Was it a multiverse? Was it he was going back in time to change it? Who knows? But the games, The Witcher is one example where I think the games, in a lot of ways, improved on the book story sometimes. It's rare that that happens, but in a lot of that cases, I think the game writing was even better than some of the book writing was. And the comics were great. Comics were wonderful. But the series, when the series first came out, or even before it came out, the writers, the Witcher writers room, they had their own little Twitter, and they were up in your face every moment talking about the social agenda that they were trying to put into the show. The cross-racial casting, which doesn't make sense for the universe, doesn't make sense for Lord of the Rings either, but I know a bunch of simps are already going, guys, actually, the first episode of LTR, that was actually not that bad. you know, but then the Witcher show came out, and for some reason, people just like all of the critical thinking just disappeared. It had Henry Cavill swinging a sword and some cool action scenes, and people were just like, "Oh, it's not that bad." It is absurd what they've done to the character of Geralt of Rivia in that show. It's subtle, but it's there. For example, when he goes in and meets and I'm blanking on the name right now, but the name of the Beast, the character who's basically the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, that kind of that thing. When Geralt meets him in the book, Geralt hears his story, and that man did some horrible things. I mean, he became the Beast because he had raped a woman, and she ended up being a sorceress. Who put this spell on him. He was kind of egged into it by this gang of guys who were older than him or whatever. But still, um, he treated some of the women, some of the belles, quote unquote, who came to him rather uncouthly. But Geralt isn't there to be his moral judge. Geralt's not a preacher. Geralt's not a missionary. He's that wandering with a conscience, and he does see that there's a curse that he can lift, um, and he helps the guy. Now in the series, oh, we can't have that. No, Geralt's got to be mad and set in judgment over him because hey, that's not woke what you just did. Other examples, when he makes the wish that binds Yennefer to him, Yennefer's very mad. How dare you? That's not acknowledging me as a strong, independent woman. No, that's not. That's wokeism creeping into it and putting it over, and it hurts the story because a character like Geralt of Rivia isn't an aspirational hero that we would look to and say, I want to be just like him. I want to be so non-concerned with immorality just as much as he is in this situation or that. No, no one thinks that. No one thinks that. That's absurd. He's a character there that you see, and this is like Boba Fett. We need characters like Boba Fett or Geralt of Rivia and their respective archetypes, mercenary, that wanderer. We need them there to be able to live vicariously through them in some ways to get sort of a cathartic experience out of that. Now they do things, and we can pretend that we're okay with those things, but we never do those in real life. Matthew Meyer for $2, thank you very much, says, have I ever read Elric of Meanlebone? That originally, no, I haven't. It's on my list to get to though at some point. Yeah. Let me see there. Yeah, okay, I got that off. So it hurts the archetypes because then you suddenly this, like, in Boba Fett's case, you got this mercenary, this bounty hunter. Suddenly he's not that anymore. So when you go back and see how just badass he was in The Empire Strikes Back or whatever, yeah, it's not that effective anymore because well, he's going to soften and he's going to be that. No, you need characters just like bad guys. We need elemental evil bad guys. When you make every bad guy, well, they're there because they're misunderstood, or here's the reason that they're like that, or whatever. No, 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 no. That's a misunderstanding of what the archetypal evil does for us in stories. It shows us that there's evil in the world and it deserves to be fought against. It doesn't mean that, the person next to you who's annoying you is Satan. No, any sane person isn't going to think that. But that's something that this whole woke ideologue phenomena has been putting out there for so okay with Spider-Man No Way Home or something like that. They're taking on this woke ideologue way of thinking without even knowing it. And the woke ideologue way of thinking is that in order for a character to influence me positively, they need to be literally everything I would aspire to. The ideologue, through their way of thinking, almost thinks that every character needs to be what they would call aspirational, right? We need to literally have a a white person, a black person, a Latino, a transgendered person. We need to literally have all of those people in the Justice League or something if representation is really going to be there. We need to literally have a character who would say, out of the blue, I'm okay with what anybody identifies with, or something like that. That's just not in their characters at all. They need that literal nature, and that's the that kind of false naive it's just a false way of thinking that we need characters to be literal. They're not literal, they're archetypes. They represent portions of us, or parts of things we see in the world. They represent ways we're working out the vicissitudes of life, externally. They represent that. They don't have to be literal role models like children's fiction, but you see that kind of literal thinking come across in people's like defense for something like Book of Boba Fett, right? Well, I think that it makes sense. It makes sense because hey, I don't care who you are. If you were in a sarlacc pit and then you had to scrape your way out of it, you'd have some existential crises and you'd really examine your life, and that's realistic. No, you don't be so literal with that. The archetypes should not be taken or have literal expectations applied to them in that manner, in that respect. That's something that fans now. Uh, are unknowingly taking on from the woke ideologues and ideology. It's insane. The last example I'll give here, just for time's sake, because I do want to make my general point here in a moment, and check in a little bit with chat. Chat's been going a long time, guys, and you guys have tagged me in a lot of things, and I know that you guys have said a lot of great things, and I am going to try to check a couple of things here and there if I can, but just time wise and the bulk of it, I'm not going to be able to hit everybody. I do read the super chats because I think them sort of beholden to do that, as long as they're polite, but yeah, I will go in and pick out as many comments as you can. But the last thing I want to say is something else disturbing. I have already seen, think about this phenomenon I'm talking about where the fans are, slowly just kind of letting go of their standards. Well, at least it's not. Well, I'm just excited about I'm already seeing people ready and willing, open arms, ready to accept the Batman, no matter what. No matter what. We just need a new good the Batman movie. It's just gonna, hey, I mean, he really is looking at like, detective aspect and the noir, everything that has been released about the Batman, whether footage or news, things that they've actually just came out and told you, yes, this is in the movie, has been so in violation of the Batman archetype. Uh, Pattinson has no clue the character he's playing, and the movie itself, it's just a absolute. There's no mystery to it. There's no question about whether or not he is going to be a brutal Batman out for vengeance. And you might say, well, isn't that the line? I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. Not like that. Batman is not the Punisher. If you're still thinking Batman's a Punisher, then you're not liking Batman at all. Even when Kevin Conroy says, I am vengeance, I am the night, that vengeance is on the evil in the world anyway, not on the individual bad guys. He doesn't beat people to a pulp out of revenge. No. Pattinson even said, well, he says he won't kill, but the question is that because he really wants to kill? He really wants to kill. What kind of character are you playing? This is insane. And people are I'm already hearing people seeing their comments and they're commenting to me. Well, I'm just looking forward to it because I think it might really get it okay. And it might not be that bad. And it might just be better than blah. No. um, Andres Hernandez says, will you check out the Rippaverse or Common America? I've heard of Common America. I didn't know Rippaverse. That Young Rippa, is that him, the YouTuber? He's got stories. I didn't know he had stories out, if that's what you're talking about. Common America, I do love Tim Lim's work. I haven't really gotten that yet. The why can't I think of the character? This guy, I'm blanking on the name, but I loved everything about these stories. I even got the plushie and everything. These were great, and I know Tim Lim does great work, but I just hadn't gotten into Common America. It's based on an anime. It's like an anime, little tongue in cheek they're doing. I know with like Common Rider, and I'm not a big anime person either. So, but no, I'm sure it's good. Sure, it's good. But yeah, so I'm already seeing people just ready. They're gearing up. It's not just when something comes out and they see other people liking it that they get on board with it. They just already gear themselves up because they need, oh, guys, we need something. Come on. It's been such a hard few years. We just need something. Can we just be, and think about what they're really asking there. What they're really asking you is, can you just agree to like and support something no matter what? Can you just agree to not apply your critical thinking? Can you just agree not to worry about the consequences? Can you just agree? And they'll say, well, if you don't like it, why don't you just shut up? Why don't you just stop talking? No, that's not how this works. We have a right to express our opinion. You have a right to express yours. We don't have a right to, and it's really telling of some damaged psychology when one of us tries to silence the other from speaking out on their own platforms or whatever. That's are go on a tirade about these people and they keep saying this and that or something. That's it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. It really is. Usagi, thank you, Private Eye. It was right on the tip of my tongue. I was looking at my sticker I have over there, and I was like, you know. But thank you for that super chat. Uh, go back to see who it was. Andres, yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't put that up. I should have put your name up. I'm sorry. I do that for super chats. Yeah, I didn't know about the Ripperverse though. I will have to look into that. That sounds pretty cool. So those are the example of Terminator Joe for $2. Thank you very much. So people need to stop consuming and start create. Good call. Yeah, yeah. As I say, consume responsibly, and that means critically analyze. Yes, don't just say, "Well, I'm just gonna like it." There are consequences that come with that. But if Hollywood's not putting out new stuff, then put out new stuff yourself, or go on a search for the new stuff that's being created that's not as well publicized. That's hard. That's hard because when you get independent creators, for example, there's no way of vetting quality, anymore with self publishing and stuff like that. But yeah, do the search. But I always say too, don't why neglect all the wonderful things that have been written, or the films that have been made, or the series that have been made, TV series and so forth. I've been going through and rewatching a lot of old TV series in my downtime when I'm watching dinner or making dinner, or just need, like, I've been grading and studying or writing too much and I just need a break. I've started rewatching Farscape, the whole series, and I realized, man, I haven't watched all of Farscape since early 2000s when it came out. It was current. I was watching it currently with Peacekeeper Wars and everything too. And that was it. It's been that long. And I'm rewatching it again and thinking, man, this is amazing. Oh, it's so amazing. Before that, I rewatched Babylon 5. I'm showing Sound Engraver, the Agents of Shield, in the MCU up until Infinity Wars. But yeah, I'm gonna watch I'm gonna show her Stargate SG1 eventually, Andromeda, some things like that, some great stuff. So yeah, and then comics wise, I mean, my goodness, how many wonderful comics throughout the years have I still not read yet? Tons. I don't need new things off the press. I don't need to collect that new issue. Um, but again, it's that sort of cult-like mentality where everybody's holding their breath for whatever day Disney Plus releases the next episode, and then they watch it, and then they run online to see, oh, you like that too? I like that too. Oh, we're just saying, oh no, someone over there said something mean about it. We gotta shut him down. It's just like again, that's not fandom for the property, the franchise. That's fandom or that's an obsession or a need for community. And my heart goes out to people like that because, okay, if they're that desperate for community, they are hurting in some way and do need community. But it's not healthy to do it in a way that's going to cause consequences or contribute to the deconstruction of a mythology, which is going to hurt individual psychologies and society in general. So one final point I'll make about this before I jump in is um and this was originally going to be the topic for the whole stream. I was going to say, there's an attack, or there's an attempt to eliminate masculinity from our mythologies. And we see this in a number of the examples I've already mentioned, right? It's subtle. It's done in these subtle different ways sometimes, but when you look at it, it's absolutely there. And it's done by trying to deconstruct these archetypes, like Boba Fett. Okay, Boba Fett, the traditional Boba Fett, the bounty hunter, the mercenary, doesn't take guff from anybody. He'll do whatever he wants to get his way. All right, now that kind of masculinity, that kind of manhood, isn't something that we should aspire to be like, just literally, right? We shouldn't. No, of course not. You don't go out there and just take whatever you want. That's not, true masculinity is protecting, is serving, is embracing your masculinity. But we need that archetype, though. We need that mercenary to kind of inspire us with that strength nonetheless. And as I said before, to give us that sort of cathartic way out of seeing the consequences of that kind of behavior, but still it's kind of fun to watch, and you get that little thrill from it and stuff. But when you take a character like that and give him self-doubt, and he's really sad, and he needs this kind of woman to come along and give him guidance and help him. Nothing wrong with a woman guiding a character hypothetically in general, but when you do this over and over again with these very masculine archetypes, Geralt of Rivia, as I said, it was done in the books, and it's certainly done from day one in the Netflix series. Geralt of Rivia, I mean, he is, wow. You talk about masculinity just brimming from the man. And it's so well done in these early books as well as in the games, with his connection with Yennefer, because Yennefer is the wiles, the wily feminine to the degree, even shrewish in a lot of ways, and yet he's so drawn to her because she's just as uncontrollable in her femininity, not even somewhat toxic femininity in some ways, as he is sort of uncontrollable and unbridled in his masculinity. They're drawn to each other, and but what does Yennefer want more than anything in the books? She wants a child. Sorceresses are barren. She wants to be a mother, and that's when Ciri comes in, and that's a great story with Ciri coming in, with them sort of adopting her and stuff like that. That's wonderful. But they're taking that, they're changing it, they're putting him in submission to her. That's what they do. They don't like masculinity being shown in mythology. Andres, for another $2, thank you so much, says, where did you get the Flash and Superman posters? Thank you. The Flash is done by the same person that did my Wonder Woman over there. What does that say? Angela Mckendrick is a artist who is at some of the cons that I would go to, and she did a lot of these. Now she'll do some of even characters or versions of characters that I don't like, but I really do like the way she puts like an inspirational message on the characters I do like. So this is if you're not moving, you're not living. Keep moving. You will find your way. I like that. This one here was an artist I forget, but I love this one because you can even see on the corner of it, Superman is smiling and looking down thinking, and he's got Jonathan Kent, his father, who's got his arm around his shoulder, right where the Superman S should be, or right where his heart would be. And it's showing that the heart of that character is Jonathan Kent, and the goodness that he instilled in him, and the ways that Jonathan taught Clark to be a man. And there was a real movement for it to really stress this when Snyder just totally crapped on everything that Jonathan Kent was and did in Man of Steel. Or if you're talking about this one, though, this one is the great, the immortal Art T. Bear. This is one of my best treasured belongings there. He sent me that print. He signed it to me. He said, to a very smart geek, and signed it. And I just, it's one of my treasured possessions there, Mr. Art T. Bear's print. So thanks for that. Yeah, I always like talking about my art. But talking about this loss of the masculine again, the woke ideology wants you to believe that that gender is completely separate from sex. No, sex is a biological thing, but gender is just culturally, just a culturally manufactured, cultural construction. No, it's not. No, it's not. Some things absolutely are cultural constructions about gender. I don't know of anything biologically that would make the color blue associated with boys or pink associated with girls necessarily. Maybe there's something I don't know about, but some things could be culturally constructed like that. But there is a male type of brain. There is a female type of brain. These are biological things. Males are visually stimulated for the most part. Of course, there are exceptions, but exceptions don't disprove the whole rule. That's ridiculous. Masculinity is a thing, and as much as they're trying to, oh, it's okay, you can be whoever you want to be, unless it's masculine, because they want to nix masculinity from everything. This Michelle slash MJ and the Tom Holland Spider-Man, she is telling him what to do. She's the, um, she's it there. Sorry, sorry, I'm trying to get that thing off the screen there. Over and over again. I guarantee you, the Batman is, Catwoman's going to be in that. I guarantee you, she's going to have some sway, tame the beast there or something like that. Um, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as I said, get ready for it. Get ready for it. They are going to be taking away that in a heartbeat. Any kind of masculine aspect to him. It's no, it's not. Another thing I was thinking about, just as an example, and maybe this is a good way of saying this. I was talking about Captain America, how that's not something, because if it's an aspirational hero like a Captain America or a Superman, well, yeah, by virtue of being the aspirational archetype, they are a little more literally what we should strive for. Now, we'll never make it, but as I've said many, many times, as I've drilled in on my channel, we need that aspirational um, standard to be as high as it is, so that we can go up as high as we can, close to it. Um, if you start lowering the aspirational, we'll lower our human potential, or how much we're going to try or strive for it. And when people try to explain away, well, it made sense that he would do that or whatever, it got me thinking. I was like, if Superman Returns was released today, people would just be okay with it. There'd be none of the critiques of it that would came out. Now, again, Superman Returns is a well done movie. And after something like Man of Steel, my goodness, take me back to Superman Returns. But the critiques it got for the way it handled Superman in the mythology were 100% correct and valid. Superman would not do certain things they had Superman do in that movie. Absolutely not. But I think people would just be okay with it today. The fans would just be like, well, makes sense. He was kind of sad when he did this. I mean, they're just so not interested in holding characters to their archetypes anymore. And that's when mythology falls down around its own ears. I mean, it's just you can't you can write stories. You can write stories all day long, but this is what the ideologues are finding out, that their stories don't resonate. That's why they keep returning to ready-made characters, to ready-made mythologies, and trying to infuse them with their ideologies, because they know if they just write a story from the get-go, Brie Larson's ridiculous unicorn movie or whatever, no one cares two shakes about that movie. That movie is not doing anything, or not going to reach anyone. But if she goes into the comic book universe and portrays this character or whatever, then they can try and get their message out a little bit more. But even then, they're on borrowed time, because as they put more of their ideologies into it, the resonance of those stories just start to fade. I mean, really, who even talks about the Cap Falcon show anymore? Who even talks about the Hawkeye show anymore? As recent as that was, Loki and so forth. People just want that current flashbang in the pan so they can feel like they're a part of something, and then no one cares. And then the continuity of a cinematic universe is left trying to build on the rubble of this over and over again. It refuses to go back and fix anything. So it's yeah, mythology is going to fall. Like I said, we need to hit the bottom of the barrel. But it is concerning what they're doing to the masculine. um they are not, even something. So someone might say, Prof, what are you talking about? The Mandalorian character himself. What a great portrayal of masculinity. This great warrior bounty hunter who chose to protect this little baby, who chose to. Now, I only saw the season one of Mandalorian, and I said, yeah, okay, that was well written, but it wasn't for me, because I don't agree with the continuity that they were doing, trying to, play this into everything. So maybe I understand that women did kind of school him pretty well at every turn in season two, but I haven't seen that, so I can't speak to it. But let's say, even if that was a great example, look what you have to accept, though, or have to support by accepting the Mandalorian example. You have to support a Boba Fett who so long just decides not to be his archetype anymore. You have to support ultimately a Luke Skywalker who just decides not to be aspirational. People are still lying to themselves. No, no, this isn't. This is like the Favloni verse. That's what it is. It's something different. It's not. No, it is absolutely Kathleen Kennedy's plan 100% from the get go. And then you have people saying, well, I don't care. It's something good to watch. So I'm going to watch it. Okay, well, you're just selfish then and don't care about the consequences of the things you support. You refuse to consume stories responsibly. It's just you don't care. You want something happy to nibble on right now, to gnaw on right now, and you're not thinking about what it's going to do to you in the future or to society in the future. So that's what you're choosing to, you know. So it's very concerning, but at the same time, it's heartening. And maybe I'll end my proper talk with this. It is heartening of more and more fans being clued into it, more and more fans realizing that these things are problematic. And it's heartening what Ghostbusters Afterlife did, guys. I mean, I gave you the analysis of it. Again, I know it made some decisions that made me uneasy, and a lot of fans were saying that's not for me because of that, and I totally respect that. But Afterlife was there. The very theme of Afterlife, the foundation that that movie was built on, was that we need to reconnect with the father figures from the past. We need to reconnect with the masculine father figure. We can't go forward without reconnecting with the masculinity of our heritage. That's the theme that movie's built on from ground up, needing to reconnect with the Ghostbusters themselves and throughout, you know. And I won't say too much more about it because Sound and Gray hasn't seen it yet. She just watched Ghostbusters with me, #1, the other night, and it was glorious. She liked it. We're gonna do #2, and then she's gonna watch Afterlife. So got another super chat here. Let me get to before it goes away. Miguel Espinoza, thank you very much. Says, hey, Prof, I'm working on a story at the moment. I wanted to ask you, can you go from a trickster to an inspirational hero? Do you have any tips? It's really hard to give tips, something like that on without knowing the specifics of it. But I mean, yeah, a trickster can be an aspirational hero in some ways. Yeah. The ways they manifest their trickstering has to be very different. But yeah, that can happen. Sure. Interestingly enough, Superman, when he was first created, was far more of a trickster than an aspirational hero. But again, in that malleable state of a character's invention, when it's being molded by what the public needs, you know, from a character, then it became aspirational and lost that tricksterish, and that's what culture needed. And it remained that way for decades upon decades upon decades until the brilliant Dan Didio said, I'm mandating a change, make him darker. And then Snyder said, we change darkness, let's do that now. You know, and that's crept into everything, including the Superman Lois show that people try to pretend is that's really getting it right, guys. So all right, so that's what I've got. I'm up at my hour point, but let me just go back a bunch here and see, look for some people who might have tagged me, just to give a few comments anyway. Wrestler Dude says, what's the difference between an aspirational hero and a flat character? Oh, okay. So this is a good question. Okay. So like an aspirational hero, I say, has to have always been good from the beginning. He has to, or she can't have moral failings or tragedies that make them want to be good, you know? And then the critique to that, which is understandable from where it comes from, is saying, yeah, but doesn't that make for a flat character if you don't give them any kind of depth or whatever? Not at all. A character can have psychological depth. An aspirational hero can learn, you know. And the best answer to your question is look at examples like Superman 78. I mean, young Clark had to learn when Jonathan Kent died that there's death in the world and he can't do anything about that. And things were hard for him, absolutely, but he never once considered doing something that was evil or had some great big moral failing. The aspirational hero can make mistakes as far as like they have certain limited capabilities. They can't save everyone. They can't do everything. And that's what gets some writers into like, oh, but wouldn't it be interesting if they were in, say, a situation where they've got the bad guy by the neck and he's getting ready to kill somebody and he's got to do something. That's the wrong kind of story to tell with an aspirational. So there are wonderful stories out there that do tell great stories with aspirationals. Again, Captain America, the First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War. I mean, you've got Steve Rogers going through some really harrowing choices there that affect him deeply, but he never wavers. And I wouldn't call him a flat character by any means. So the flat character is like the, children's literature, like I am Mr. Good Guy and I fight Mr. Bad Guy, and um, I think the assumption that that's what an aspirational hero has to be is is poorly thought out. But that's the difference. Hopefully that answers your question. Um, yeah, horrid films says I've noticed a desperate push of hype for the Batman people already deciding it's the greatest thing ever. I know. Yep, yep. Gigawatt says it's a sad state of affairs when people cannot identify with the character unless the character is exactly like themselves in every way. I know that's ridiculous. That's absurd. Um, Resnoker says you get 50 to 100 people in chat for an hour plus. There's going to be way too much to catch up with. Oh yeah, yeah. Comment wise, I appreciate that. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Trying to look though for a few. Leia Plus Size says I think those watching Boba Fett, this new Batman movie, and anything MCU are trying to cling on to something that is just not there anymore. You're right in terms of new content. That's a great point. In terms of new content, you're absolutely right. It's there, of course, in the old wonderful stories that we have. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. But looking for something here. Sound Engraver, my dear Sound Engraver, says YouTubers who make a killing on criticizing shows by watching the shows aren't just entertaining, they're current. Yeah, that's why people can't walk away without incredible discipline. Yeah, it's a dopamine hit. Like I said, you get to watch your favorite YouTuber who's talking smack about something you want him to talk smack about, like, woohoo, this is great. And a new show comes out, which all signs point to are going to be bad. Yeah, but I gotta watch it so I can see how bad it is, so I can know what people are talking about when they say it's bad. No, that's part of the problem. Chris P, welcome, Chris P. I saw you there, channel member and all. Farscape, very cool. I still have to finish season 1. Yeah, you do. Oh my goodness, finish season 1. It's awesome, flipping awesome. I got a super chat there from Mr. Andres Hernandez. Thank you very much, sir. $5 again. Do you think Superman Birthright, Secret Origin, handles Superman aspirational, but also not too flat? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Superman Birthright is a great one. Superman Secret Origin, I like even better, to be honest. Up and Away is another great Superman one. Of course, Superman for All Seasons, Superman Kryptonite. Lots of things in the John Byrne run in general, although he had some clinker ideas here and there. But yeah, there's no loss or no lack of wonderful stories that tell an aspirational hero well. Definitely. Okay. Get a couple more here. Spidey Rules 1962 says Spider-Man definitely has inspirational moments. Yeah, absolutely. Every hero, if they're to their archetype, whether they're cathartic, motivational, or inspirational, have inspirational moment. Oh, Spider-Man's incredibly inspirational, but he's not aspirational because he does make mistakes. And what's so inspiring about him, though, is the reason he's not only cathartic but cathartic motivational is because he shows us how to get up, dust ourselves off, and continue on after we make those mistakes. Yeah. So yeah. Let me be very clear that when I say a character might not be aspirational, that doesn't mean they're not inspirational within their own archetype necessarily. Nathaniel Zalozball says, thanks in part to you. I've been watching the original He-Man. Oh, so good to hear that. So good to hear that. It's not like the shows I'm used to watching, but there is a charm to the series that has me coming back. There truly is a charm. I was telling Sound Engraver today how it's amazing how well written a lot of those old cartoons are, and it's because a lot of the great writers today, even some of the writers who have crossed over into the woke ideologue territory, like a J. Michael Straczynski or whatever, they were doing those cartoons when they weren't able to do all that. So you got your Paul Dini, your J. Michael Straczynski. I found out that Michael Reeves. I was rewatching the Boogeyman episode of the Real Ghostbusters, and it said written by Michael Reeves. It's like, Michael Reeves, that's awesome. He's the EU writer that's written so many great, books and everything. So yeah, so many great writers were working on those shows. Thundercats. Thundercats will be a little more of an involved episode to episode building universe than He-Man was necessarily. But the Real Ghostbusters, I even like the G.I. Joe cartoon, even though that was a little more, for kids, but it was still so well done. I know people love Transformers. I haven't watched enough of that yet to really get into it, but yeah, I will. Um, Final Fantasy says, I'm reminded of something that George Lucas said. There's two different types of happiness, joy and pleasure. Yeah. Pleasure being ephemeral, something that you just want now, just something you need now, but not lasting and not doing you any good really once it's gone. Joy is that constant, that internal, you know. I mean, Christian theology has a good way of explaining that too, you know, that you can be unhappy, you can be you know, sad, even depressed to a degree. But if you have joy, you know, that assurance of joy in you, then you'll never lose that. And it's a different thing. So yeah, that could be a whole video on its own. But Dr. Y says modern aspirational heroes are like the Ford Aspire. They make you aspire to drive something better. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Oh, this is a good question. Gigawatt 1.21 says, "Do you think they messed up Boba Fett because the Mandalorian replaced him as his archetype?" That's one issue with it, definitely, and I do think that they wanted to do Boba Fett from the get go, but they couldn't, so they did. But even if they had done to Boba Fett what they did to Din Djarin or the Mandalorian, it still would have been quite the great handling with them. We are going to do once we finish up the book study for Allegiance, Star Wars Allegiance. I am going to start up with Tales of the Bounty Hunter, and then we'll do Bounty Hunter Wars. And you know, some things are similar. Like he does take on a ward or you know, help out some children and stuff like that here and there. But it's very different. It's handled within the bounds of the archetype. Like I said, when you have a character like that who's suddenly the main character. Um, all right, guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. Let me just see if I can get one or two more here. Go back up. See somebody I haven't read yet. Oh yeah, the imaginative hobbyist says thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. probably not being canon to the MCU anymore. Honestly, I couldn't be happier with the way the MCU is going. Yeah, they've written that out of canon all the as soon as they did the Darkhold in the WandaVision. That's not the Darkhold that was shown in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 4. Yeah, so I couldn't be happier. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an example of just really well written stuff. That's even I was telling Michelle hasn't read with me or watched with me the trying to way to say this so I don't spoilers, but the Hydra, you know, the Who is Hydra arc yet of season 4. And I know when that came out, a lot of people were saying, guys, this is kind of blatant. You know, you're clearly there's a little bit of Trump derangement syndrome coming through in the characters here. And I'm sure that was in some of the writers and some of the actors, but it wasn't to the point where it was clearly agenda. They didn't do anything that was out of their character. And now that the whole Trump era is over with and what we're dealing with in the current era of our world, you can easily see what they're thinking. Like when Coulson does that broadcast, I mean, you can easily see it, you know, talking to government today, trying to push so much stuff and everything. So it's yeah, are pushing narratives and stuff like that. So good writing is going to outlast any one ideology. The problem is when the ideologies take over and they beget propaganda instead of story. So yeah, I'm glad that it's no longer canon, so that I can still enjoy it. You know, for we've got a few more seasons to watch. So Sound Engraver said, I took my headphones off. No spoilers. Yeah, no spoilers. I'm done talking about it. It's all good. All good. Yeah, classic She-Ra, Leia plus size, good stuff. 80s cartoons except for Mask. I never watched Mask much. What else? Silverhawks, Black Star, of course, Thundar the Barbarian. Those stories from like late 70s that kind of inspired Masters of the Universe. So much good stuff. But I am going to wrap this up now, guys, because it's a little longer than I originally planned to stream. I've got to still eat something, believe it or not, and do a little bit of work before I need to get some sleep because I'm driving my daughter back to her mother tomorrow. And then I'm going to get ready for Mass and all of that. And get ready for a Valentine Day weekend with my dear Sound Engraver. But yeah, I agree, Ghost Team Planet Go. I miss Fan Man too. Yes, he's sorely missed. I still chat with him all the time, of course. And it's actually invited him. It was too late, but I invited him to come onto this stream if he was still awake or whatever. But he's got a different life schedule and everything with the kids and everything. And and all of that. So we'll hear from Fan Man again. He probably won't go by Fan Man, but he'll be back with a podcast, or I'll have him as a guest on my channel at some point or something. So so you can look for Allegiance, continuing the Allegiance book study this Tuesday. And yeah, I'll pop back in with. I'll probably cut this stream up a little bit for some videos and release those, but I'll be back for another stream randomly whenever I think of something to write or talk about or want to go into something. Maybe I'll do a stream about how great some of these old series are. You know, people are always like, "You're so negative, Prof. Why don't you ever talk about anything good?" I'm like, every single week, guys, I do book studies talking about some amazing stuff we've gotten, and I get maybe 12 people. So don't tell me you're so done watching me because I'm too negative. You know, you don't watch the positive stuff. But maybe I'll do like an overall, like why Farscape was so good, or why something like that was so good. That takes a little time though, but yeah, do something like that. All right, folks, I am out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the wonderful comments. Thank you for the super chats. Those who were able to super chat, everybody else who just contributed and participated. That's wonderful. So much appreciated. And yeah, keep, above all else, keep consuming stories responsibly. You watch something you know is not good for the mythology or society or whatever, don't watch it. Don't support it. Don't watch it just so you can gripe about it. And don't stop being critical of things. Again, don't be a troll yourself. Don't go on somebody else's stream or blog or whatever and start calling them stupid or whatever, blah, 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 don't be that guy, but don't stop speaking out on your own platforms, because we need to keep pointing the way to good stories and good mythology. So thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.